Assalamu alaikum. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'du fa'uzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. It's important for us to know that Khilafat is not a man-made thing. As we have already heard from the speeches, that God is the one who establishes Khilafat. God is the one who helps it to grow and to spread. What's interesting about this divine scheme is that prophethood and Khilafat are linked. They're very much similar. Prophethood is at a time when there are no believers, or there are very few in belief, or very limited in their faith. And God chooses one person. He sends His angels and converses with that person. And then from that one person, God establishes a Jamaat. That's prophethood. But the next step is where Khilafat comes in. Now that this Jamaat is established, God then helps the people from those believers to choose one of theirs to be a Khalifa. And this is how God continuously has a leader for those who believe. Today, Ahmadiyyat has Khilafat and nobody else. If we look at the Quran and the verses that were recited in the beginning, وَلَا يُمَكِّنَنَّ لَهُمْ دِينُهُمْ, among the many, many promises that God gives to the believers, that once you have Khilafat, these are the things that you will be given. One of them is, God says He will surely establish for them their religion. That Khilafat will help to establish our religion. And that is the topic that I was given today. Let's look back 1400 years ago, at the time of Hazrat Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu. When he was appointed, or when he was chosen as a Khalifa, even his own father was amazed that you have chosen him. And yet, at the hands of Hazrat Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu, at the hands of Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu anhu, at the hands of Hazrat Usman radhiyallahu anhu, and at the hands of Hazrat Ali radhiyallahu anhu, Islam spread. It grew. Similarly, if we go to the time of Hazrat Khalifa Awwal, Maulana Nuruddin radhiyallahu anhu, we find that when he was also chosen as a Khalifa, many of the opponents said, this is your Khalifa? He will be the one only to give dars of Quran, that's it. And yet at his hands, and at the hands of Khalifa Sani, and at the hands of Khalifa Salis, and Khalifa Rabi, and today at the hands of Khalifa Khamis, Islam is spreading to every city and every corner you can possibly imagine. I am testimony to one of those places, one of the most remotest islands in the middle of nowhere. So today I wanted to share a little bit about how Khilafat has a direct involvement in these places, how Islam has spread because of Khilafat into these very, very remote places. In fact, they are so remote that Islam had never come to these places before until Ahmadiyyat came to their door. Most of these islands, by the grace of Allah, were established 20, 30 years ago. When Hafiz Jibreel Sahib, some of you may even know of him or have heard of his name, he would venture off island to island with just a small bag. He would arrive knowing nobody on the island and having one mission, that is to spread and establish Islam. And then he would be blessed in such a way that those who joined him 30 years ago are still members today, still Ahmadi Muslims today. And they have held to the mantle of Islam for so many years. One such man, his name is Sam, very dear friend of ours, a very dear person. He is such a person that he says when Hafiz Jibreel Sahib came 30 years ago, we met him, we listened to him, we joined. He said, then for 30 years we never saw another missionary. He said, but I never wavered in my faith, not a single moment. There were others, he says, who after some time, 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, began to waver from their faith. He said, do you know today, not a single one of them is alive? While I am a very weak person, an insignificant person, and God has given me such a long life. So I request you all to pray for him as well. People today are joining in these islands. They're not coming from other places. They are local people who are joining. So I want to share some of the stories about how they are and how they behave and how it is to see them when they join Islam. One such scene that always brings tears to our eyes is when we see that these islanders, when they learn Salat, for example, just like we have our children here, when the father raises his finger in the Salat, the children will also follow. But imagine we have a room full of adults who are also very new. They have never seen Islam before. And they are following the Salat. As you raise your finger, they all quickly raise their finger. All of a sudden there's a noise in the corner, and all of them look back during the Salat. Or if the Imam sneezes, some of them think that maybe we are also supposed to sneeze. The way that they follow the example, or the way that they are trying to follow every little thing, if you scratch your forehead, they're also thinking that maybe this is part of Salat. This is the same example that we find 1400 years ago when the Sahaba were following the example of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what I want to share with you today is Huzoor's guidances, his advices, and how he has taken a personal interest in these islands, very remote places in the middle of nowhere. Through his guidance, through his advice, we have gone from island to island. We've been island hopping. We get to a new island, and then we establish the Jamaat, then Huzoor says, okay, time for the next one, and we go to the next. And imagine that these are places that nobody has ever been. We have seen people from Pakistan leave and come to these islands, but they are all coming in the name of Christianity, but not Islam. Only Jamaat Ahmadiyya has been established in these islands. When it comes to the connection they have with Huzoor, it's also a very nice scene to see. The very first time that I introduced the idea of writing a letter to Huzoor, they were very anxious and excited. So many of them started to write. And how they write is very, very beautiful to see. They write, Assalamu alaikum, how are you doing today? I haven't spoken to you in a long time. It's very nice to hear from you. This is how they write to their beloved Huzoor, as if he is standing right in front of them. And then Huzoor replied to each and every one of their letters with his own signature. And it was a very joyous day for all of them. That somebody so far away, who has more than 200 countries under him, is sitting there to write letters to us, small Jamaat, in the middle of the Pacific. One man even wrote for prayers that his brother is a pastor, and he's the biggest, staunchest enemy that we have. And he wrote to Huzoor, he said, Huzoor, please pray, because my brother, because of my faith, he gives me a hard time. Huzoor, please pray. He wrote this once, twice. The miracle is that just before I came, more than a little bit over a month ago, his brother started to talk to him, he invited him to his home, and they finally had the discussion about their faith. And the pastor could not say a word. This simple Ahmadi had such arguments that the pastor could not say anything. These are through the prayers of our beloved Huzoor. Similarly, if we look at their devotion in sacrifices, all of you sacrifice, I know. And the whole world, Ahmadis all over the world are making sacrifices day in and day out. But by the grace of Allah, they also sacrifice. Even though they may have very meager means, they are not rich, they are very simple people. I'll tell you one story of a man who began to collect cans because they started a recycling system there. So for a whole year, he was collecting cans. At the end of the year, he told me, he said, today, Imam, I'm going to go and cash these cans in, see how much money I have. I said, okay. That was also the end of the Tehreek-e-Jadid scheme, or that year. So anyway, he went. He got a total of $30. Came straight to the mission house and handed me 10. And said, this is for my Tehreek-e-Jadid. Imagine for a whole year he collected cans and got $30, and 1/3 of it, without even thinking, he handed it as his chanda, as his Tehreek-e-Jadid. This is the kind of level of faith that, by the grace of Allah, they are having and they're showing. Similarly, when the first missionary arrived on this island, Kosrae, it's a small island part of a country called Micronesia. When he arrived, the persecution from the Christian religion there, or the churches there, was very high. And it is even today. And so in the very beginning, he was writing to Huzoor daily or regularly, Huzoor, please pray, Huzoor, please pray. It got to a point where the opponents, the churches, they began to say, you don't have a single member, you have no reason to be here. So the missionary wrote to Huzoor, Huzoor, please pray, we need some kind of member at least, so that we can have some sort of Jamaat. And by chance, somebody came to the door. His name is Swimmer. When he came to the door, he says, I have read your book, Our God, and I want to join. So the missionary said, no, wait. Normally, whenever we do this, we wait till Friday. So I want you to wait till Friday. He said, no, I want to join now. He said, no, don't worry. It's okay. We can wait till Friday. And he tried to persuade him to wait, listen to a few more things. He said, no, I'm ready now. I would like to join now. So he took the bai'at that day, he signed it, and he joined. 2 weeks later, when Huzoor's letter arrived, the very day that he signed, Huzoor wrote, Inshallah, you will be having a Jamaat very soon. The very same day that he signed and joined Jamaat. Similarly, I would like to share a personal story as well about how the love of Huzoor and the love of the Khalifa is unmatchable. Nobody can imagine. We received a death threat, or I particularly received a death threat in the island, that somebody said, we will kill you, watch over your shoulder, we are not going to allow you to establish in our Christian nation, and so on and so forth. So I wrote this to Huzoor. This is when Huzoor was in Canada. So I received a reply that, prayers and devotion and just take it easy, and inshallah everything will be fine. Then a few days later, all of a sudden, early in the morning, I received a call from London. I picked up the phone, and they started to ask me, how are you? Are you okay? I said, yeah, I seem to be okay. So, oh, thank God you're okay. Huzoor has been asking about you all morning, wondering if you are okay. I said, yeah, I am okay. They said, please give us your phone number. So why do you need my phone number? So Huzoor wants it, to have it with him. I was surprised. So I gave them the phone number, and I hung up the phone. And 30 seconds later, the phone rang. I picked it up, and the same missionary said, don't worry, we were just testing the phone. It wasn't Huzoor. So quickly I wrote a letter to Huzoor. And I told him, I said, Huzoor, I'm sitting in an island literally in the middle of nowhere. If you were to Google it, you will have to keep scrolling in to finally see some land. It'll be blue and you'll keep Googling it. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. And I said, Huzoor, I cannot thank you enough that you're sitting there and so far away, and with 200 countries and millions of members, and yet you are thinking about me and thinking about the small island. So with that, I want to end this small discourse. Some of these stories I wanted to share with you. We are just so blessed to have Khilafat. Nobody else, no other kind of people in this world have this blessing. Today we are seeing Islam established in places you cannot imagine. In one of the islands, a Pakistani Maulvi did come. they decided, okay, we will also establish Sunni Islam here. After a few months, he got his bags and left. And then he changed the whole scheme. He said, from now on, we will go to the island and we will just bring them to Fiji. No reason for us to go live there. While we have been there for 30 years now. Our missionaries have been there. So today, our accusers, our opponents, those who think that maybe we are not even Muslim, today our answer is through our actions. How we are spreading Islam day in and day out and establishing Islam in places you cannot imagine. And inshallah, Islam will continuously spread here in Australia as well. Inshallah. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Jazakumullah. How these faith-enhancing stories are with our beloved Khulafai Silsila. Everyone experienced like that. Any Ahmadi suffers in any corner of the world, our Khalifatul Masih suffers too. Even more than that. This kind of love cannot be created until and unless there is a true Khilafat.